Now, we're going to get started with AI agents in procurement. And I am so excited because Sagi, who is the co-founder and CEO of Tonkean, he's he's actually a visionary. I've had an opportunity to do a podcast with him, but he is passionate about the first of its kind AI-powered process orchestration platform for enterprises. Now, Sagi and his co-founder Alfer Talmar co-founded Tonkean in 2015. They met at an elite intelligence unit of the Israeli Armed Forces. Their first startup, Office Sync, was acquired by Jive Software in 2011, where both held executive engineering roles. Now, Sagi is passionate about building products that solve real problems. His ability to look at the big picture while zooming into a product's most minor technical and design details has made solving unsolvable problems what he does best. And presenting with him today is Franck de Almeida, and he is the general manager of Tonkean. He brings 15 plus years in procurement industry with a strong focus on SaaS solutions. He's a veteran of SAP and SAP Ariba, where he led the guided buying product for 5 years, and he also led Inverse's spend management solution for SMBs. Both focus on delivering intuitive, efficient procurement experiences. But more important than that, these gentlemen really want to impart their wisdom to you today. So, Franck and Sagi, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go off camera, but folks, please make sure you use your Q&A button if anything comes up that you want us to discuss at the end. If we don't get to your questions today, we will follow up with you in writing. Our presenters have promised us that they will do that for you. So please make sure your questions come in because we want to make sure you get all the answers you're looking for. And with that, Sagi and Franck, welcome and take it away.
Thank you, Don. So awesome to be with you guys. Such a great community. We always have fun meeting everyone and coming to the events and doing those webinars. So excited for this topic. And just like Don said, please ask questions as well as we go through it. I think maybe a good place to start is a quick poll we had to kind of gauge the familiarity of everyone with the topic. So maybe take 20 seconds to choose one of those options.
Mhm. And folks, if you are in multiple screens, sometimes the poll can pop up quite far away from the actual screen of the webinar today, so please look for it. But rating your familiarity, excitement of AI agents and procurement is you have one choice to make: not familiar and you're cautious, semi-familiar but curious and interested, familiar and excited but not ready, quite ready to invest, and familiar, excited, ready to implement or have already implemented. Ziggy, where do you think it's going to end? Where do you think the majority of folks
I
are?
would say normal distribution.
Okay.
Probably
Look at that. Not
normal
quite.
distribution it is almost on the low end of it, but very good, very good context. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining and for voting. Like Don said, I'm the CEO and founder of Tonkean. I had Frank with me today, who's the GM for our procurement offering. We want to talk about AI agents today, and we want to talk about the AI agents in procurement. I think we'll start with actually talking about AI agents in general, first to get a sense of what it is, and then we'll show you also how it looks in real life today and in large enterprises. Just to spend maybe 10 seconds on Tonkean. For those of you who don't know, Tonkean, we're a platform for process orchestration. We've been around for about 10 years now, focusing on large enterprises in our main as our main segment, but help a lot of different verticals and different industries optimize their processes, get more compliance and more efficiency by improving the experience of what it is to participate in a process and be part of a process and not necessarily feel like you're being forced to do something. Making technology more making using technology to make the process more natural for the people. And we focus on procurement and legal as our main two product offerings. And of course, we will talk procurement today. I want to start really making a kind of statement. I think everyone that is been reading online, going to conferences, I'm sure watching webinars like this one, there's a massive hype and conversation around AI and recently agents. And there's a lot of different companies and influencers that have announced agents that way or another, but not enough that are willing to, actually come and define what it is and what is it not. And I think, with all of this, from the big, companies, the S2P companies and ERP companies, all the way to, more newer type of companies that, have launched in the last few years, it feels like in the last couple months, everyone are, saying, hey, we have agents and come see our demo. I wanted to start by help defining first what is an agent, what is the difference between an agent and automation or chatbot and AI in general. So first, why are agents exciting? Why is it different than, the LLMs or AI type of revolution that happened just, in the last couple of years? With the ChatGPT of the world, of course, we've all experienced some of the magic that comes with this new technology. How you go from essentially a UI and software that does not actually understand what people want, cannot actually come up with new and dynamic interactions, to a place where you go to a chat gpt and you can ask it anything, and you can give it whatever task you want, and you'll get something back. And of course this is getting better and better. What is the difference though between a chat gpt concept to an agent? Agents comes build on those same fundamentals and same technology, but are designed to do a different type of tasks and a different type of interaction. Instead of I have a question, give me an answer, which is again that sort of like the baseline in which ChatGPT and chatbots in general are coming from. Agents are meant to be autonomous. They're meant to be goal driven. So instead of saying, "Hey, I need, I have an answer, I have a question, give me an answer," I have a task for you. I have a goal for you. It's not even a task. I have a mission for you, an initiative, a project, and I want you to go figure it out. I want you to go come up with the steps. I want you to execute the steps, and I want you to resolve that issue, that project by yourself. It starts with that concept of what is the intent of using this uh, type of AI versus the chatbot is with the goal driven. And then the ability to actually do those tasks as if a human would have done them. So if you have, if you just hired someone, entry level person, or you are managing a team and you have certain people in certain levels, when you give them a project, that's kind of what you are expecting. You don't want to handhold them through every task and every step. You want to be able to give them a goal and give them a scope, and you want to have the autonomy to do that. But to do that within your organization, again, I'm talking about the person, but that's exactly what's going on with AIs. You need to have that person come with some experience and skills that are relevant for the project, and to have access to your environment, to your systems, to your data, to your people, actually, in order to collaborate with them or leverage that information and execute the tasks in the context in which your organization runs. So the next kind of step here is that for agents to be leveraged correctly, and why, again, they're more exciting than a chatbot, they have intelligence, they come with context and skills that are specific for a project, right? So I'm sure you've heard that concept of like, hey, there's a sourcing agent, and then there's a buying agent and contract agent and so on. We'll talk more about that. But the idea there is they have the context and the skills and the knowledge of a certain topic, as well as access to the relevant systems, right? It's very cool that ChatGPT can, generate a blog for you or whatever in those early examples. But it's much better if they can just go write the blog, put it in social, really kind of handle all the different tasks that are coming with that work in the systems and in which people will do them. And then, of course, all of it is not about just following a script. And again, when you think about the way people work, there's always guidelines. There's always a way to do it the way we wanted things done in an organization, and that's include people. But the power of people is that we expect them to not get stuck on any exception or unpredictability that happens, any deviation from the process should not block them and stop them from actually finishing the job. And so that is the expectation from agents as well, that they're gonna do the work beyond just executing the instructions and the steps you defined them. They would be able to iterate, they'd be able to reflect, they'd be able to think and come with potentially different ways to go next in order to again to achieve the goal. So hopefully this is helpful as a starting point. I know there's a lot of text and a lot of content, but really with all the noise around agent, if we can't understand it, we definitely can't leverage it. And so the very first kind of concept is kind of understanding it. The hype, in my opinion, is worth it. Not necessarily where we are right now or where we will be, but the path in which we are on. Because for many years, I believe that technology is under leveraged when it comes to the way business operates. We started the company believing that business operations are about people and not about data, but every software out there is about data. So to actually leverage software, we need software to be smarter, to be more aligned with how people think and work. And agents provide that future, a glimpse to what that can look like, where we don't treat software as something that is yet another thing we need to do that sometimes helps us, but a lot of times it just feels like we are kind of like working for the software, filling all this information and all that stuff, but actually as if we hired, a lot of more capable technology to help us, do the work the way people like to do the work. So created like this short checklist, sometimes visually with colors and a simple way to think about it can help and help especially with again looking at you know companies coming and launching things. You see a demo, you see a pitch from your team or your boss tells you, we need more of that. What is it that we need? So let's talk about it for a second. If an agent, quote unquote, only works inside a single system, the system that it's on, then it's not really an agent. It's just an automation, right? If an STP or an ERP are introducing agents that is only accessible through chat and it sits within their own system, it's not an agent. It's a chatbot. Now, I'm not saying automation, to be clear, and chatbot are not great functionalities, but they're not agents, right? Similarly, if an agent is only reactive and is not proactive, right? We give it a goal. We expect it to also be proactive about things of what over time. If it's just reactive, then it's not an agent. It's just a chatbot. If an agent steps and logic are pre-configured, right? When hard-coded steps do this, and this, then again, it's not an agent. It's a chatbot or automation. And lastly, but sometimes the most important part, if an agent can't use tools autonomously, then it's not an agent, it's a chatbot. Tools are really the capabilities that unlocked this entire wave of agents. It what brought uh, the LLMs the capability to work on different tasks, as well as reasoning models and other things that allowed it to think and plan. And hopefully, you can take a screenshot of that. Hopefully, that's a simple way to come and think about and assess what do I even need? Do I even need an agent? Maybe I need a chatbot. Do I even have an AI problem or I have an automation problem? There's no right answer, but it's important that we understand the differences so we can actually evaluate the need as well as the proposed solution. Moving on to what makes agents enterprise ready. Uh, you know, if you got to the point that you looked at that list and you understand this and you say, actually, I do need an agent. I do want an agent. I want that type of technology, something that can actually work alongside my team, and I'm ready for that, and I want to explore that. How do you think about that when it comes to being enterprise ready, being in the realm of large enterprises and mid-sized enterprises? You want that to be in a certain level of compliance and capabilities. The way I'm thinking about it is really there's 5 areas where we need to be able to touch on. The first one is agents needs to have access or built upon a layer that allows them to work as just like people. And people has access to multiple processes, multiple teams, multiple tools in order to perform their task. And therefore, the only way for agents to live to that expectation is that they have to have a build upon or work with a true end-to-end orchestration, something that is able to connect to all those things. And then they have to be fully accessible. I'm gonna repeat myself 1,000 times. Just like people, you need to be able to, if I want to talk to Dawn, maybe I'll text her, maybe I'll Slack her, maybe I'll Microsoft Teams her, maybe I'll email her, maybe I'll mention her in a comment in my S2P system. Wherever I am, I need to be able to access and work with this employee the same way you would wanna work with the AI agent. You don't want employees to now learn how to use a new thing in order to leverage this technology. You want it to be immersed. The third thing is, again, we mentioned it before, is the proactiveness and autonomous. If it's just on demand, when you ask it to do something, then it's more like a chatbot. So you really need to be able to assign a job for it that can be on demand, but then once it has a goal, it should run in the background. And just like, again, like an employee, be proactive, is able to reach out when needs approvals or additional information or alert and give insights, and of course, execute tasks independently. Last 2 points, and I promise we're gonna get close now to see this live. Um, is really the concept of multi-agent. It's not about one agent that works in a silo. That is very, very powerful, but where it's really cool is where it's actually working in multiple agents together. That's where you bring a team together and not just in one employee. And that's where the hype is really coming from when you think about the influencers and the investments and why everyone are spending so much work on it. Is that where it coming to? And the last and obviously most obvious one is you have to have guardrails and controls, not too similar than an employee. You're not giving every employee access to all the stuff. You need to have control. You need to have guardrails. You need to have things that needs to be approval by a person or by a more senior person and whatnot. Same goes here. This is a quick preview of kind of like how Tonkean is built as we kind of transition to Franck to show you an example of our agents and with that context. But again, it has to come together on top of the systems and tools you work with. But with that said, I uh, I'll be jumping in for any questions as well. And I'll have Frank take over.
Awesome. Thank you, Sagi. I'm gonna be sharing my screen now. Hopefully it comes up fine. So what we're gonna try to do this morning is gonna try to go through 3 to 4 different situations and different agents. And um, we're going to try to look into a contract review agent, a supplier comparison agent. We're going to try to see also like a master service agreement use case. And then if we have time, we'll try to go through the invoice payment agent. So we'll see that each of them are just examples of, specific situations or specific goals, as Sagi was saying, where those agents will interact with different sources of data, and they're going to be accessible through different channels, right? And they will behave autonomously and proactively. All right. So let's dive in a little bit. Our first example is going to be so I'm going to try to get like to use the hat of the marketing manager. And in my day-to-day basis, I work with a lot of agencies. And from when I need a campaign, typically I'm going to receive an SOW, right, from those agencies. And typically today, what it would take for me to get that SOW reviewed would take me a few days, a few back and forth between, different people in my organization, potentially legal. And, it was going to depend on a lot of schedules and effort. So it is something that can happen, but will take a little bit of time. So these type of agents that we built, for example, here, I'm going to be able to write an email to my contract review AI agent, and I'm going to tell him to review this SOW. And I'm going to say, please help me review this SOW from my agency. Tell me how it matches our guidelines, right? And I'm going to attach the document. And done. I'm going to send it, right? So going back now to what is going on the Tonkean side and the platform side. So we're going to go a little bit under the hood just to illustrate what is happening, right? And what kind of actions are being taken right now. So right now I'm going to our studio. I'm going to show you our email front door, and we're going to go here, and we're just going to have a look at what is going on. And so this is the email that I just sent, okay? And we can see that it has been received, it's been processing, and now our AI agent is taking over, right? So this AI front door is actually looking at all the different agents that are configured here, and is going to look into what is the agent that makes more sense to reply to this query, right? And then process it. And so that's where, what this meets a little bit what Sagi was saying is that, it's not just one agent, but it's having multiple that really makes the difference. And now you can see that it's been processed and the notification has been sent. So now if I come back to my email, I do get my response, and the agent is telling me, look, here's a review of the attached SOW. On scope of deliverables, it can tells me that this matches our guidelines. For fees and payment terms, looks okay. However, we typically ask for itemized fees and allow for milestones, et cetera, et cetera. And then I even have a summary that now I can use to either talk back to the agency or just take a decision, right? The continuous advantage of this is I can reply to this email, and I can continue to engage with the agent and ask them more and more questions, right? So how did we build this, right? So if we now look a little bit more into under the hood, if I come back to my contract review agents, you will see that the workflow or the process flow is not very complicated, right? When a new file arrives, we do a certain process, and when the file is ready, we set a certain input, right? A certain output, sorry. Now, the secret sauce is really how do we tell this agent what to do, right? And so how do we define this agent? And so in this case, what you can see here is that we have the ability to define what is an agent purpose. And again, like on Tonkean, everything that we do is completely on this no code platform. So I do not have to write any code to make this happen. And so we can see the agent purpose, and this is the heart of it, right? The instructions. What is that agent supposed to do, right? And so here I can give them give it a prompt that will explain what the agent needs to do. So if you don't have a contract, ask the user to upload it. In our use case, I sent it via email, so it didn't have to ask me to upload. And then when you do, please review the contract content according to our guidelines, highlight any parts, and when does it require a legal review, and then important considerations, right? The guardrails that we were talking about. Then you can put a few examples of questions that you want this agent to take care of, right? So when the AI front door was looking into all the different agents that we have, these examples help guide a little bit what is the agent supposed to, what is the proper agent that will align with the query. And then, as we discussed earlier, the knowledge sources, right? Like what is the data that this agent is going to have access to? And so this can be one of our, 250 plus connections that we have with, SaaS solutions. So it can be as we have here, a Google Drive, a SharePoint, right? But it can also be something a little bit more complicated. It can be a contract repository. It can be a CLM tool, right? It can really be anything that you want.
ERP, S2P, DocuSign, like it can be any system that you connect.
That you have to, yeah. Suggested intake sequences. So the benefit of this is that now I can link this agent to a particular process flow that I'm already orchestrating via Tonkean, right? So for example, if I'm in the process of purchasing something, right, I could be linking this agent to verify, if the contract that is being used in this purchase follows our guidelines or not, right? So instead of asking before the purchase happened, I could do that during the purchase, right? And link this to a particular interface in my flow, right? And then these autonomous skills and suggested user actions, we'll see that in other agents. Those are the areas where we can tell the agent to do a very specific type of action, right? And we'll see this in a little bit, so that it makes sense. But the user actions, for example, could be that we're now guiding the user to say, for example, in this review contract, once the contract has been reviewed, we could tell the user, do you want me to send this feedback to the agency? Once the agency comes back with their replies, we can then generate a proper contract and send it via DocuSign, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So those are the suggested user actions, which is, how does the agent take you to the goal that you wanted, right? Anything you wanted to add, Sagi, so far?
No, there's a couple questions about whether how is this kind of different than using it in the ChatGPT? Is it safer? So one answer I add is that Tonkean being a platform that your IT approve has a lot of benefits on top of it. First, we don't train the AI with any customer data, and that's a big difference. But then also the fact that the knowledge source here is a contract review guideline folder in which you can put all the different guidelines files makes it so you have a much better control of what data is being used. But more importantly, it means that the AI doesn't actually have access directly to your system. The AI only have access to the agent, and then the agent is what actually have access to the contract data itself, and that allows a lot more control on the areas that we want to use or not. For example, if there is sensitive information inside any knowledge source, we have features like privacy where you can obfuscate or encrypt like social security numbers or whatnot, so that data never actually goes to AI and so on. But then the important part, and I think that's kind of maybe where we're gonna go next, is that this agent is a part of other agents. So it's not just when you go to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you review this SOW, is that this is now have access to the rest of the agent. So you do the work with it, and it can be part of the process of what you're doing. So maybe as we go through there, it will make more sense.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's move to our second example, right? So let's say now I'm removing my marketing hat for a second, and I go back and I put my finance hat. So let's say I work in finance, and I'm going to have a meeting soon with the rest of my team because we need to identify a few candidates to a few candidate suppliers to help us with global or international taxes purposes, right? So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to be asking, who are the top five consulting companies who specialize in global taxes, right? So now we're making a generic query to that LLM. So what this is going to do is identify the different sources of information where this data can be taken from. So now it's not necessarily looking into my customer environment, but more out there on the internet. And it's going to provide me with a list of five firms. And now from here, what I can do is ask to compare these with our suppliers, with our existing suppliers, right? And so now what this is going to do is that it's going to actually look into our source of information. So in this case, in this demo environment, our suppliers are coming from our S2P sandbox of Coupa. So it's going to look into our supplier base and compare this with this list, right? And the output is going to be a comparison table that is going to tell me which suppliers that came from the first question, so the top five, which ones are suppliers already on Coupa, right? And on top of that, right, it's going to give me additional information like key strengths, key weaknesses, market share. And on top of like identifying that this is a Coupa supplier, we can also get additional information from another system. In this case, for example, Bureau, that is going to give me supplier risk details, right? And I can see that the other suppliers here are not active suppliers, apart from EY that has some entities in Canada and Germany, right? So now I have a better understanding of like who are the potential suppliers I want to work with and who's already in our system, right? So now what I can ask it is to create a memo of this comparison for my next meeting because I need to present this, right? And again, we're going to be talking to a different type of agent now. So before we had a first agent about getting in data from different sources and compiling it with a first source, and now we're using another agent whose goal is to take some information and then create a file.
If you scroll up for a second,
Yeah.
before we continue that part, like I do think all the way up, um, I do think it's important to kind of see the amount of work that kind of went behind the scene when you asked to compare them, and how can you scroll a little bit down to show yeah, it's like searching information for each one of those, analyzing them, using multiple different sources, internal sources, understanding which one has an active supplier or not, like you mentioned, other sources like Bureau, but also the web, if you enabled it to do it, and then compare and match. There's nowhere that was actually directed to do that. That sourcing agent behind the scene is essentially just have access to those tools, and that's the autonomy of it, is knowing to actually take this information and go and kind of use it wherever it is, wherever that information is, and again cross-reference it and look for further, right? Even this, multiple EY here, one in Australia, one in Canada, Germany, that it was analyzing. No one asked it to do it.
Right. Okay, let's give it another shot. Real quick. So this memo agent, the point of it is to compile all the information that we've been gathering and then add it into a document that after that I can use. So all right, it's not wanting to. So let's say use your own template. Let's see, generates the document now. So it is generating a solution, a document or memo that I can then, use for my purposes for my meeting. I can take this information, put it in a document on my anywhere and then share it with my team. And let's say after the meeting, we talked amongst ourselves with the team, and we decided that, because Deloitte was one of our suppliers already, but we wanted to we wanted to engage with others. Then right now, what I can do is I can talk with a different agent and say, for example, send an RFI to EY Canada, and use the recipient's email as com. Right. And so now again, during this conversation, what I'm doing is I'm using multiple different agents. So we had the comparison, we had the memo agent, and now we're going to have this RFI agent, which is going to go and do something similar as the contract, which is going to take access to some guidelines and documents that are already predefined in my company, and then it's going to use it to send it directly to the supplier. So right now I'm putting my own email for this demo purposes, but I can send it directly to the contact that I would have for that supplier on my supplier database, right? And again, if it's not a supplier, this RFI can then link to an onboarding process, all of that can be completely orchestrated from our platform, right, from Tonkean. So just told me that the RFI had been sent. Here was the document if I wanted to see it. But now if we can come here, we'll give it a minute for it to come back. And in the meantime, I can click here and see the document again. Yeah, it's showing the.
I'll answer some questions in the meantime. There's several questions here, and how can you trust the data of the supplier comparison without actually requesting the data directly from the supplier? You should think about it as, when you start doing the analysis, obviously you're trying to use external sources first. And part of it is like an RFI example is that when you realize, okay, maybe this is interesting, I want to learn more about this supplier, then that's where you can ask for an RFI and ask for more information from the supplier. So it's less about we shouldn't think about it as a magical thing. We should think about it as just a way for an entry-level employee. Instead of you doing the work to kind of research the web and research the different sources to get a sense of what's going on, you can use AI and agents to do that work for you, and then ask them to go and send an email to the vendor to ask for more information. Next question was around the quality of prompt and context when you use LLM. the more you have examples and the more you have context, the better it goes. Yes, 100% this is true here too. The thing though is we kind of wrap around it, so we spend a lot of effort on making all the agent works together and have them think about things and kind of how they reflect about things. So all of that stuff we take care of. The specificity of how much details you give into the agent configuration that Frank showed earlier is critical. For example, on that review on this example that he did first on the review of the SOW, one of our customers wanted the response to be slightly different, in which I want every clause of the contract to say passed or didn't pass. And the only thing you had to do is go to the configuration of that agent and literally just in plain English say, respond back with every clause and say pass, didn't pass. And that's enough for the agent now to act slightly different in their environment. So there's a lot of flexibility in it, in the tone and the ability to work, and how to instruct it to do it. Let's move on, and I can answer other questions after that.
Yeah, of course. No, this was great. Great insight. And again, like on that trust topic, again, the point is not to completely trust the AI, but it's really to be able to gather additional information, right? And so what this comparison does is really getting everything that we have in our systems about a supplier, and we could have gotten like, specific risk or third-party management information, plus what's already on our platform, how much volume do we do with the supplier, etc., on top of like current news and current information that can be out there on the web, and that it would have taken a little bit of time for you to gather on your own, right? So that's kind of like what we're trying to do with these examples is just like, showcase a bit of